Hello, everyone. Welcome again to our new episode of Discovering Digital Creators. Today, we will be discussing with OHKAY, who is a digital artist, NFT aficionado, and writer.
Thank you very much, OHKAY, for being with us today. Today we are going to be discussing about your work, the inspiration behind your work, and how you see the future of NFTs going. So tell me about how did you get into digital art?
I'm 23 right now, and when I was 16, I taught myself Photoshop, and I spent I don't know, a couple thousand hours over the time being 16, 17, just learning Photoshop. My school didn't really have a program for it, so I just every night went online and was just Googling it and just got got really good at it. And I was making websites. That's kind of how I got a lot of the money when I was going to school and stuff. And I just found that it was a really easy way to take an idea and bring it to life. So that's always something that I just had under my belt. And I found it very interesting when someone, in any case, whether it's someone I was working with or a friend that wanted to make art, they would say, "Oh, I have this cool idea, but I don't know how to make it." And I would just pull out my laptop and I'm like, "All right, let's talk about it." Right. As you talk about it, I can make it on Photoshop. So that was always something I've always been kind of in love with. I started an online brand when I was younger, which was totally built on, how good are you at Photoshop, right? If you're good at Photoshop, you can make a website, then you can make products and you can make clothes, everything else. So it really starts with that Photoshop document open board. And then a few months back, a good friend of mine, someone I've known for many, many years named Corey Van Loo, he's a fantastic painter. And we've been friends online forever, friends in real life. And he started posting that his art, which I've always been a huge fan of, he was turning his art digital. And this is probably 5 or so months back. And I was following that journey. And I just found it so inspiring that you can take art and turn it digital, even though he's out there painting. And then he would turn it into a GIF somehow. And it was just so awesome to see. And so I thought, you know what, I have a lot of really cool ideas. I'd love to put them into the art space. So I did a lot of research. I found a few platforms. I was really drawn to Foundation because I like their almost exclusivity factor and how there's an invite only aspect and how people on these platforms are kind of held to a higher standard. So I reached out to a bunch of friends, a lot of which were like, "Oh yeah, Foundations, that's the spot." My one friend's like, "Hey, I have an invite. You totally deserve it. You're definitely, I know you're going to carry yourself well and build your presence and profile. And, you're not going to let the invite go to waste." So he, thank you to him, August. He gave that to me, and I kind of just went from there. And I had a few ideas to start, and I thought, I'm just gonna make a joking one. So my first piece was called WTF or NFTs, and I just did I love gradients. I think gradients are so important, and they represent just a mass velocity of color, and you can see so much fun in a gradient, a light gradient background, in my opinion. So I threw my favorite iridescent 11 gradient background up. And I just took, I'm really obsessed with folders because I think that especially being someone who's really into Photoshop, computers, all that fun stuff, folders are where all the magic happens, right? Folders are your organizational base in your brain that you can put on your desktop. So I was I've always loved folders. So I grabbed some folders, Photoshopped them a little bit, and just put them on the gradient background. And underneath those folders, I just kind of wrote, as if you were naming the folders, I said what the fuck are NFTs? And I was okay, this is fun, let's do it. Let's just shoot it out there. So I uploaded it as my first Foundation piece. And I got familiar with the minting process. I found that so interesting how you can take something, and then with Ethereum, mint it, put it out there. And then, there's your list fee, all this stuff. And I'm oh man, this is an investment, it's not one of those things that you can make a lot of art. And if it doesn't sell, it just sits on the shelf. You actually have to put money in order to get money out. So I was oh, here I go. $100. I got some skin in the game now. I'm really invested in this. So I shot some ether over, put it out there, and then I just blasted on Twitter, Instagram. I have a solid following on Instagram, and a lot of people are "Whoa, this is crazy! You're on the NFT space." I'm yeah, and a lot of people were blown away. They're "Oh my god, this is the first time I've seen someone actually put something into the blockchain." I had a lot of college uni kids message me "Whoa, we've been talking about blockchain in class. You actually did it." And I was kind of thinking "Oh, it's kind of simple. You just got to know what you're doing. It's not, rocket science to work in the blockchain." And then within
when was that? When
this is about this is the beginning of March, so around a month ago. And at the same time, I had friends putting stuff up for like, 1 Ether and it's selling for 10. So I was like, wow, the time is now. Let's make some art. Let's have a lot of fun with this, even if I make some money and like pay for like food or, fun, whatever that may be, like I want to I want to put it back into the art. And so, yeah, I had that up for like zero point 0.2 Ether, and it ended up like someone bid on it within like the first couple hours of it being up. And then within 24 hours, yeah, it had sold for 0.25 Ether, which is like $500. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is so fun. I reached out to the collector and I'm like, hey, this is really huge for me. Like, thank you so much for this. You've really given me a spark of inspiration and influence towards the space to really like to drive that home that I can really do this. And not really that I care about monetizing my creativity, but it's a great aspect that it is a possibility to monetize your creativity. And from there, I did my last two projects were folder projects where I worked with like a beautiful old Monet piece and I turned that into a folder kind of with a gradient background with the idea of like, what if like these crazy artists back in the day had laptops, right? Like would the Renaissance era and, the golden age of oil and acrylic on canvas and everything you see in the MoMA or the Met or like the Louvre, all these beautiful paintings, would they be digital? That's the question. And, would those creators and painters and everyone of that era, would they be what they are if they were living in today's age? The question is, I don't know. I think that maybe these guys couldn't make it on Instagram. Maybe they were just another person with some really good, talented painting. But I like the idea of being like, okay, what if they had access to a computer? What would their folder look like? So I did a Monet folder. That was my second piece that's currently listed. And then I did another folder, which is kind of like my folder, which is like what my magical folder would look like. And that's like almost like a liquid looking folder over a blue and pink gradient going off of like the beautiful gradients I like. So that was kind of like my first series um, of, of pieces that I put out.
And so, what is the inspiration behind your work? Like you mentioned that you are inspired by Monet, and how could it be like if he was in the era of Instagram and Twitter? Tell me more about that.
I mean, my inspiration is kind of like I just love the idea of like the digital art, right? And I have this artist that I loved when I was a kid back in the Tumblr days named Dom Sebastian. I think he went to Central St. Martin's in London. And
I
like
also went to Central St. Martin's.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I'll have to send you Dom Sebastian. He used to work with, he was the most abstract, craziest, gradient using, like out of this world Tumblr artist at the time. He was using all his projects from school and putting them on Tumblr, and he shaped a whole new idea of what it meant to be like to have weird, unique art look cool. And so I was like so inspired by that, the way he used colors and images and like physical objects in one space that looked like none of them belonged. But for some reason, it looked so cool and so raw and so like grayscale mixed with gradient. I just found it like so fun. And ever since I was a kid, I've always been so like drawn to that idea of like abstract ideas mixed with like normalized gradients, mixed with, background spaces that do make sense with foreground images that don't make sense. I think that a lot of that was driven from like those old Tumblr days when I found like my style of creativity, which definitely would base back to Dom Sebastian.
That's really cool. I didn't know about Don Sebastian.
And yeah, I would love to message him on Instagram and be like, hey, you heard about NFTs? Like, you're my favorite ever. I think people would love this stuff.
And do you have any particular piece of your portfolio, of your artwork that you really enjoy and you feel proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I like all of them. And so my portfolio, in a sense, and like my lifetime portfolio is a lot different, excuse me, and more vast than my NFT one, because as I look at it with the NFT space, it's incremental. And I feel like you have to be putting out pieces almost in like a calendar and a schedule, right? Like a piece a week almost to make sure that you don't oversaturate your own page and you have time to promote each of them, because I get worried where you're going to go out there and promote a bunch of pieces, no one's going to buy them, and you promote more pieces, and without growing that following of, excuse me, people that really appreciate your art, you kind of, there's a possibility of oversaturating yourself. Plus, it costs a lot of money to mint it. But So overall in my portfolio, I really have a few pieces that I've done over like my university experience that I truly love that I think I'm going to break into the blockchain with. A piece that I really, I think is really fun is I just released, it's called NFT Boy. And my best friend, her name is Serafina, and we basically grown up together. We spent a lot of our like development time growing up in New York City, all over the U.S. basically, and she ended up going off to be like a really fantastic model and working in the online space. And so I said to her, I was like, "Let's get you in the blockchain." We always have this joke like, "Buy Serafina's ass in the blockchain," because like it's just like an ongoing thing we keep saying. She's like, "Yeah, let's do it," right? And so um, she shot this like really elegant unique cover of her in front of a computer, and this is for a different online spread, and it was based on a 1990 Playboy magazine cover. And I said, you know what, like, how about we take all these and we turn this cover into a GIF and we call it NFT Boy? And she's like, let's do it. And so I took the exact 1990 spring Playboy cover, and I just looked at that. I studied it for a while. I was like, what's the typography? Like, where's the font? How's it sitting? Where's the model? How's she centered? And we curated the NFT Boy, which I just released the other day. And what I would like to do with that, honestly, is take girls that have online presences and are these really beautiful girls, and then take a twist on that by adding art to it, right? And adding like the whole idea of like turning it into a GIF and putting text and copy and really unique like creative behind it, and then putting that into the blockchain. So what we would like to do is do at least once a month an NFT Boy cover, and it would feature either a different model, or we're going to stick with my best friend Serafina, because her and I just have such good chemistry, and we're basically a team on everything in life. So it'd be fun to like really be a team in the creative space too, in NFT. And we just want to make different covers. And eventually, once one or so sell and we have the capital to do so, I would like to turn the covers into either posters or a full magazine spread. And by the end of this year, I would like it to be like a 15 or so page magazine that whoever buys it in the blockchain gets the physical of it. And if they sell it in the blockchain, I would really, really ask them to sell it, ship it to the next buyer through like ship the real one. So I think that's a really fun idea. That's something that's been a favorite of mine so far. And then my next project that I'm working on is my favorite. And I'm like I've grown up as a very big writer. I love fiction. I'm so obsessed with fiction books, young adult novels, writing those. I've written like a couple of zines, a lot of blogs online that are just like kind of based on my life, but geared towards like a young adult audience. And so what I'd like to do is take all that talent that I've nurtured and honed on over the years, and I'm going to turn that into NFT Space. So I'm actually in the process of writing a 60-page fiction novel about like the NFT space, and it would be, the main character would like theoretically be me, but it's going to be kind of like an character, like not oxymoronic character in that sense, but he's going to be traveling through the NFT space and navigating it. And a lot of like collectors and friends of mine that I've met in this space are going to be characters.
Really cool.
So what I'm going to do is turn that into a visual, right? Turn that into like the book's gonna open on the screen. You're gonna see the pages flip, and I'm just gonna show how I'm actually gonna print a copy of this and ship it to whoever buys it.
So you want to go from the written story to a visual artwork, and
Yep.
do you want also to explore maybe like a movie or animation of this whole story?
No. See, I just want it to be. I want you're gonna be able to look at it on Foundation, and you're gonna see the cover. It's gonna be like animated almost, and then the book's gonna open, and it's gonna flip each page. So theoretically, you could read the book if you took the GIF and then kind of paused it frame by frame. You could read it, but it's going to be a full like 60-page project.
That sounds really cool. Like I look forward to see it on Foundation or a platform where you will publish.
Yeah, that one I definitely want to put on Foundation. But yeah, it's fun stuff like that. I have an open slate, and I have many ideas, and I think that all of them I'm going to bring to life through Foundation. And I think that one day, a collector might see them and say, I really appreciate the artwork that he does, and it's fun and it's young and it's cool and it's unique. and they might buy into it, which would be fantastic. And if they don't, if no one buys it, it's still fun because it's just another piece from my portfolio that I have out in the world. And I think that that's so fascinating. And putting your skills to the test and making products and projects, I think is so much more important than, just making stuff to sell it.
Yeah, because it can help you to develop your skills and your portfolio and go from one piece to another and keep improving
Absolutely. I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
in the last, I always make this joke that in the last couple months with me playing around with NFT ideas, I've gotten better at Photoshop than I did in like my last 2 years of college. Cause I'm just like, I'm trying so many new things. And when I was at school, I was really like, oh, I'm really, really good at these parts of Photoshop, but I never experimented with other portions of it. And now I'm diving into loopholes and rabbit holes that I never even knew were on the Photoshop platform. So, I'm really outside my boundaries here, and I'm learning, and I'm just teaching myself a lot of just new aspects of the app that I'm so grateful that I have the time and energy and inspiration to do.
How do you see the future of your artwork or your art practice going? Where do you want to go?
I just want to put stuff out there. I think that people always say like, oh, make sure your page like is cohesive and aesthetic and it makes sense. And I'm like, yeah, that is good for marketing purposes, but like in my opinion, fuck it. Like if you make cool stuff and it doesn't all match, if it's not under one big theme, that's fine. Not everyone needs to be a Renaissance artist. Not everyone needs to be the next digital MoMA and the next digital Louvre. You don't need to be one of those people that are shooting for the stars and then some. I think that it's fantastic to do so and really hold yourself to a high standard. But for me, I think that I just want to make really cool art that I like and put it out there for someone else to like. So I see myself doing a variety of projects, right? Working in different mediums, working with different artists and different friends, and doing collaborative projects, not because I want all this money, I want it all to sell, but because I want to grow myself as an artist. And I want to tell the story of progression and growth over that course, Like of all my writings ever, I've never turned them into a GIF and, brought them into a space people can buy them. I've always just given stuff out for free. So now to hold my own self to a high standard, and let's say I list it for 1 Ether or whatever, right? Like just to be able to see someone else find value in that, I think is going to be a point of validation beyond, what I've experienced before. So stuff like that, I'm excited to see the future of this and grow my following on the platforms and connect with new people. I've had so much fun on Twitter. Because I have at OK Chris, that's like my usual Instagram, Twitter, etc. And that's more like my personal. I'm kind of just like a normal guy who like yells and nags about life and talks about like the ups and downs of my daily life on there and post cool stuff. But with the OK Twitter, I've always had it from when I was running the brand out of it. And I took that back, because I've had it just on my accounts, and I turned into my NFT one, and I've made so many new friends on there. It's crazy. Like I just meet all these really nice people and like people that are also cool artists, and everyone's so nice and uplifting and like here to help each other. I've never really been a part of an online culture, maybe since I was younger and like in the Tumblr days, but one that's like really focused on art and sharing art, and there's little to no competition. It's just like, it's chill and it's fun. And it's nice. And I love everyone. So at the end of the day, if I just walk away with being able to say, yeah, I was a part of that, I think that will satisfy me enough based on my investments and my return and, my creative growth.
That's great. Yeah, the NFT community really feels like a strong online community that is happening
Yeah.
on Twitter right now.
And the people always ask me, how do I promote NFTs? I'm like, are you on Twitter? They say, no. And I say, well, get on,
And are you planning to collaborate with some other digital artists?
Yeah, I'm super open to that. I just don't really know who at the time. I think that that's not something that I'm like set out to do, right? Like when you run a brand, obviously you want to have like a Louis Vuitton collab one day, or like you want to make something as cool as Palace or Supreme in the streetwear world. But I don't look at this like that. I look at everyone here as like really independent creative, and there's no like hierarchy really. There's the people, yeah. Edward Snowden just made a piece the other day on Foundation, and it sold for $5.01 million, right? Those like big hit winners, those like large crazy things, I think those are fantastic. But at the same time, it's like I don't see myself looking, oh my God, as like a goal, like I need to collaborate with this person and then this person and then this person in order to work my way up. I just think that if it happens, it'll happen fluidly and fun, and it would just come to life, organically on its own. Totally here for experimentation. I'm not, I like legacy, right? I like, oh, make art that is going to prove your legacy in the blockchain. It's like, yeah, but like I want to look back on pieces in the blockchain and be like, oh my God, like I had just turned 23 and I just figured out how to do that and I made it and now it's out there and someone owns it. That's fun. I think that progression is so important, not only to oneself, but to a third person view, because you can just see how people grow, especially as artists, creatives. I've grown so much even as a person in the last couple of years that me looking back on my own progression is like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So I find that all to be a very interesting aspect of this whole thing, and how things are, once they're in the blockchain, boom, baby, they're there. Have fun. They're in there.
That's great. One last question. So what would you recommend to people who are just getting started into NFTs, or very young people who are still in high school who would like to get into the NFT space?
Right. I think it's nothing but a fantastic idea, right? I think that it's going to cost a little bit of money. Don't let it scare you, right? I have friends, that one of my buddies last night messaged me. He's like, hey, can you just send me like 70 Ether? Like, I don't have money to mint this, right? And so I was like, yeah, of course. I sent it to him. And he was like, thank you so, so much. Like, he'll repay me when it sells, et cetera, et cetera. But, that's $70. Some people might not have it every day. So I think it does cost a little bit of money. So be aware of that. And then also, like, your art is only as good as the community you can build. So every artist, right, has their own community around them that sees them, like peer to peers, whether, you're cooler than somewhere in the community, or whether you want to come off as like, oh, this exclusive artist, or whether you want to be someone like myself that's very friendly, messages everyone, wants to talk around and meet friends. Like, your art really is based on your community. And that's what I've seen a lot, is that you need to make community, right? You need to get into the Discord chats. You need to play on Clubhouse. You need to talk to the collectors. You need to get in the field and really get a feel for everyone in it, so that you can see how things are working, how people are doing good at Twitter marketing, how people are now moving to Instagram for some marketing, how when you post about NFTs, you then have the obligation to like tell everyone that doesn't know NFTs, your friends and people that follow you, get ready to share with them what it's like, right? Share the idea of the blockchain, because as the blockchain gets more popular and NFT art gets more popular, so does everyone else, right? So it's kind of like you're doing the community a service. I kind of sound like we're in like a cult religion where it's like share with the world, but like it kind of is, and yeah, so definitely get ready to run some online marketing, chit chat online, get ready for some sleepless nights, making cool art and then putting it out. And then don't get discouraged if it doesn't sell. With my last project, the NFT Boy, we put it up 2 days ago for 0.5 Ether. And my best friend, she's like, but I thought everything sells right away. And I said, no, this is art, it's not a gold mine, right? We're in it to make something fun, not to sell it for the money. So yeah, be ready to sit on some pieces, and I don't know, be proud of what you do. That should go for all art. Be proud of what you do. Be proud of what you make. Be proud of yourself. Be proud of your online image, and just hold yourself to your own standard, whether that's a really high standard and you want to be, the next Monet of the digital world, or if you want to be like a sneaky approach, be like, oh, I'm Edward Snowden, I just jumped in, my piece sold for 5 million, now I'm going to run away again, right? Or you can be like everyone else, that just makes stuff, puts it out there, and has fun, and just is there for the ride.
Thank you very much for being with us here today.
Yes, yeah, thank you for having me. I think, the platform you guys are working on is fantastic, and I'm excited to see the growth, progression, and expansion of the platform.
Thank you so much for listening, and please don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Twitter @Snifty, or visit our website snifty.com to know more about what we are building, a social network based around NFTs for digital artists, collectors, and curators.